Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight on Saturday, the 24th of May. That makes this the news for Friday, May 23rd, day 1185 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. How do you do? I'm Peter Alexievich, and this is the Live at 5 from Kyiv, coming to you live from this major European capital currently under siege. And I see that the peeps are coming in. There's Debbie, G2, hey guys. Anthony Tommy Tom is here. Hey Jeff, hey Darlene, hey Nightshade. How's everybody doing tonight? Hey Jeff, hey Hobo, Richard Prexis, greetings Holly. Hey Leo Ring. Lucky Leo is here. You've been playing the ponies, Lucky. Hey, Michael. Hey, everybody. When Dark Irish comes in, you can thank him. He's the sponsor of tonight's live. Thank you, Fitz. We got a couple of longtime sponsors coming up over the next couple days, and a couple new ones, too. So thank you all, because I literally could not do this without you. And on that subject, since it's mostly just the peeps that are here now, right? I see Chef Deb is here. Some other people have come in. Guys, I had a terrible week. It's been a very, very difficult week for me. And so I have not been putting out a lot of videos. But I want you to know that all the good news that I have tonight is reserved just for you because you are here. And I do have a bunch of, I hate to say good news. It's a bad situation no matter how you cut it. But God knows the Ukrainians are not taking it lying down. That's for fucking sure. And so we do have some interesting things to talk about today. Hey, Manda Bear. Hey, Betty Thompson, how you doing? Hey, Steve with a V. Opportune news. There's some very interesting things going on, Michael. And, you know, normally a lot of this would be a TikTok video. But it just has not been possible to produce these last couple days. So it is all reserved just for you for being here tonight. And it is a pleasure to share some of this with you. So, you know, the war in Ukraine continues unabated. You probably saw we're under air alert here in Kyiv right now. Air defense has been active. Last night we saw the Russians send 175 drones at the territory of Ukraine. Ukrainians knocked 150 of them out of the sky. It's an near 85% interception rate. TGIF, Mad Mike, TGIF. So the Russians keep attacking, the Ukrainians keep defending, right? With a high level of execution in that regard. It's great shooting, Michael. I mean, an 85% interception rate with 176 air targets in the air. I say 176 because they also sent an Iskander missile, which did get through and cause some devastation, which we'll talk about in a second. Because I want to talk about the drones going the other way. Because we've been talking for so long about drones coming into Ukraine from Russia. Increasingly now, we get to talk about drones going back. And here's the data that I think anybody that follows this channel is going to be very interested to hear. So the Ukrainians, now that this ceasefire nonsense is over, after a 10-day hiatus where the Ukrainians were not attacking inside of Russia at all, 10 days, no, 20 days. It was right because it started on the 8th and it went through until 3 days ago. So that's 12 days. Okay, 12 days. Almost 2 weeks where the Ukrainians were not sending anything into Russia because there was all this ceasefire talk and they wanted to appear to the world to be the adults in the room, which they are, right? Make no mistake about that. So the drones going into Russia have been slow until the last 3 days. 3 days in a row now, every airport in Moscow is shut down for air alerts. The Russian MOD said that last night they took 10 drones out headed toward Moscow. They said that Tuesday and Wednesday night, we don't have the overnight from last night, they shot down 485 drones. Now, look, that number seems too big to me. The Ukrainians are sending a lot of drones, but 240 a night got shot down? That doesn't seem quite right. But anyway, that's what the Russians are claiming, right? That they shot down 500 drones in 2 nights coming from Ukraine. Now, if they shot down 500, how many got through and so much, and why is so much of Russia on fire today? So a couple things here. First of all, last night's airport closures in Russia bring the total number of airport closures for 2025 to 217. 217 airport closures inside Russia because of Ukrainian drone attacks. That is more than 23 and 2024 airport closures combined. So in just less than 5 months, we have seen the Ukrainians shut down Russian airports with air alerts more than in the 2 previous years combined. Now, if that doesn't say something about how the war is going and in whose direction it's going, I don't know what does. That is a very telling number for me. Now, in terms of what's on fire, Bolkov semiconductor plant, we talked about that the other night. They supply semiconductors to the military defense industrial complex for things like Iskander missiles, drones, etc. That facility is 200 kilometers inside Russia, about 140 miles. And at least the main production floor is badly damaged. We've gotten pictures of the damage to the facility. Now, the facility is more than one building, but the main factory floor appears to be out of commission. That's some good news. Now, in Lipetsk, out in the Lipetsk direction, in Yelets, the Energia battery factory, which provides batteries to the military, particularly for drones, planes, and ships, was hit. Now, according to TASS, right? TASS is the official state newspaper inside Russia. It really is amazing because, look, there's video, right? There's fucking video on Telegram. You can hear the drone in the air. You can see the drone impact the factory dead on. And then you hear the air alarm start. So the air raid alarm didn't even trigger until after the first drones had struck the plant. It's all online. You can find it online. Now, okay, TASS then reports that debris from UAVs that had been shot down fell on the territory of the industrial plant and caused a fire. This is what they always do, right? Like the air alert wasn't even sounded till after the first drone hit, but it was debris from a fall. That debris is dangerous, boy. That drone debris is very, very dangerous. Now, do you guys remember we talked about the airfield outside Moscow? That's the home of the Aerial Acrobatics Corps, the Russian Knights, and I forget the name of the other team. Oh, the Russian, I forget. But anyway, like our Blue Angels, right? They do aerial acrobatics. And they got hit a couple weeks ago. There was a big fire on the tarmac there. We don't know how many planes might have been damaged. We believe that that was the target again, but the drones didn't make it. It appears that Russian electronic warfare interrupted the drones as they approached Moscow, causing them to land, get this is where they came down, on the territory of Patriot Park, a military-themed amusement park just outside of Moscow. They apparently came down around the display of World War I and pre-World War II tanks, particularly T-34s. So we might get footage of the first T-34 taken out by a Russian drone from Patriot Park, just outside of Moscow. Now, some of you may remember a General Pavel Popov, who was arrested last August. He was arrested for misappropriation of park funds from Patriot Park to renovate his own home, right? So he's currently in jail on corruption charges related to this very park where apparently these drones came down last night. So you got the Bolko semiconductor plant on fire, the Lipetsk battery factory on fire, Patriot Park on fire. Very often, people ask about partisan activity. If you know from the London Telegraph, Ukraine the Latest, the podcast, they had a special guest on today's episode. If you're interested in what the partisans are up to, listen to this interview today with this woman who is an expert on partisan activities inside the temporarily occupied territories. And she gives a great update on everything that's happened inside the temporarily occupied territories by the partisan groups, talks about the different groups and what they've been doing. And there are 14 acts of partisan sabotage documented in the temporarily occupied territories since May the 2nd. So her report today was just on activities since May the 2nd. 14 documented activities. Things like railway cabinets that are burned, so the relays are burned out, slowing military deliveries, right, and transport. But she made an excellent point listening to her talk. It's the Ukraine the Latest podcast, Walter. Check on any iTunes or podcast app for Ukraine the Latest and look for today's episode, Friday, May the 23rd. But the point that she made that I thought was so important to reiterate here is that while the burning of the railway cabinet, the poisoning of a bunch of staff officers, the display of pro-Ukrainian symbology across Luhansk, while all of those acts of defiance are very public and make it into the press and give us all hope, the daily grind, the daily danger for these partisans in the temporarily occupied territories, where they are most effective and what they most do, is relay coordinate data for the movement of they provide intelligence to the Ukrainian armed forces. That's their major contribution to this war effort. Why, right, how else could so many of these Ukrainian missions behind the lines be so effective? How could the longer range targeting of ATACMS and HIMARS and those kinds of things be so accurate without the daily sacrifice and risks that the resistance inside of the temporarily occupied territories, and indeed inside of Russia, make? So I thought that was it's a great report. The woman who delivers it is a consummate professional with real insight into what's happening on the ground. And I cannot recommend it highly enough for people to take a look at. Very similar to the Polish underground. Yes, Michael. And so many others, man. You think about the resistance inside of France. You think about the Polish resistance. You think, right, the list goes on and on. Okay. Now, what else? Right. Ryazan is hit again. The Ryazan oil refinery outside of Moscow. It appears that the Ukrainians targeted the railroad loading infrastructure. So where you'd fill the tank cars with refined oil products. Right. So if that's the case, and if that hit was successful, that could stop rail shipments of refined oil products out of the Ryazan oil refinery, which is one of Russia's largest. I'd have to look at the numbers, but I want to say they process something like 11 million metric tons of oil a year. It could be a little bit more, but they're one of the largest producers of refined oil products in the country. Now dig this. There were two hits on Ryazan last night. One, the railroad loading platform, and then the other was a workshop within the refinery. That workshop is at this time unidentified, but I'm taking bets. I'll bet you it's the hydro treatment facility, right? An absolutely crucial, essential processing step in the processing of diesel fuel. What does every single military machine run on? Diesel. Right, so I'll bet you that that's what's burning right now at Ryazan. Though we do not know. It is important to mention we do not know at this time. We're seeing very little video of armored vehicles and tanks involved in offensive maneuvers these days. Everybody's coming in on civilian cars, e-bikes, horses, Desert Cross buggies, motorcycles, right? All that. Very little armor involved in these attacks. And what there is being pummeled, right? Targeted and pummeled by the FPV drone operators and anti-tank mines. We are seeing increasingly, I think, video of the destruction of radars and other specialty pieces of equipment. In the last week, we've seen something like 3 Mr. S howitzers. And now we just saw a video of 10 which is a very rare kind of howitzer, 10 of them coming to the front line through Donetsk on a rail train. Now, if 3 of those have been destroyed already, that's 30% of the new Mr. S's on the front line. We also got great video of a TOS-1A flamethrower being dispatched in Belgorod, just across the border from Vovchansk. So that's in the Kyiv direction. It does appear the Russians are quickly moving. They will be at about 11,000 tanks lost in this war. It's hard to say. Maybe in the next 60 days, I want to say, maybe in the next 60 to 90 days, they'll hit 11,000 tanks lost. That is as many tanks as the USSR lost in World War freaking II. Like, unbelievable. Walter Williamson says something interesting. A military is moved on ball bearings. And sir, you could not be more correct. And that is a real problem for the Russians right now. Specifically, the ball bearings that keep the trains running. Those ball bearings are not made inside of Russia. They are now sanctioned. Russia can't get the ball bearings it needs to keep its trains running. It is in the process, even as we speak, of cannibalizing the ball bearings of older cars in order to keep newer ones running. There has been some effort made by the Russians to manufacture these internally, but it's unclear. It's unclear how successful that effort is being. Is it true about Iskander hitting a Patrick? I don't have any idea. Who's Patrick? Yes, the partisans are the bravest of people, and they do the most dangerous things. It's astonishing. We're getting reports that the first 390 men of the 1,000 for 1,000 prisoner of war exchange are back home in Ukraine. And so that's 40%. This is supposed to happen over 3 days, with roughly a third of them coming home each day. So we're hopeful that the next 2 occurrences of this prisoner exchange will see the same results. You doubt they can get their hands on the steel to make ball bearings? I wouldn't doubt that, Walter. They make a lot of steel inside Russia. You are a thoughtful fella. Freedom doesn't last. Did Russia just have to get the old T-62s out of storage? Yeah. You know what? I'll do a video this week because there's some good recent satellite images coming out of the stockyards of Russian tanks that are now empty. I mean, empty. The Russians had, we believe, something like 16,000 tanks at the start of the war. They've thrown away 11,000 of them. It's insane. It's completely insane. Any video of the soldiers? What soldiers, Chef Deb? I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. How many Russian tanks do you think are viable at this moment? That's a great question. I don't have a good answer to that question. When we look at the satellite images of the old tank yards, these tanks have been out in outside storage for 50, 60, 70 years. Just sitting there, rotting away. Nobody's starting them up once a year, changing the oil, nothing like that. Some of them with their hatches open. So the ones with the hatches open, they're done. You can forget it. There's no saving them. There's no rehabilitating them. They're done. Of the POWs that were returned, there must be. There must be. If you just Google it, Chef Deb, I'm sure. I don't have a source to point you to. I'm sorry. So if I'm right, and we think the Russians had about 16,000 tanks at the beginning, and if the Ukrainians are right and they've lost nearly 11,000, then that means they maybe have 5,000 left in varying states of repair. How many of those are active? Maybe 2,000, maybe 2,000 right now, which is way down from what the Russians had in this war at the beginning. Way down, right? Remember that line of tanks that ran for 41 kilometers at one time? Tanks and fuel trucks and other armored vehicles, but a lot of tanks. Those days are over. And they are not coming back. Well, how many they built, Mac? As I understand it, they can refurbish about 150 a month. Maybe build 2 new ones from scratch a month. So that's about 24 a year that they can produce new. And about 150 refurbished. Here's the problem. Now, I'm making these numbers up. These are not right, but it's something like this. I'd have to look it up to see the actual numbers. But if I'm not mistaken, in 2023, it was something like they were refurbishing and pushing out the door 500 tanks a month. So they go to the Soviet stockpiles, they take the 500 best ones, they refurbish them, bring them up to date, put some electronic warfare on them, send them into the field, right? That first year, 2022, 2023, I think it was like 500 a month. If anybody has the real numbers, throw them in here. Then for 2024, right now, think about it. You take all the good tanks, the ones that are in best shape first. So then you start picking through what needs a lot more work. And so for 2023, I think it was something like 250 a month, half of what it was the year before. Or I'm sorry, for 2024, I think it was 250 a month, half what it was for 2023. Now that even the shittier shit is all that's left, it's closer to 100 to 150. So you're seeing this asymptotical, this graph of availability that goes to zero eventually, getting closer and closer to the zero line. So I don't know. I'd have to look. I'd have to do some reading to figure out what we think is currently running. I bet it's between 2,000 and 3,000, though. I bet it's between 2,000 and 3,000. Okay, Kyiv Independent is reporting that the Russian government is announcing sweeping cuts to the budget because of the price of oil collapse. Well, an asymptote never reaches zero. They will reach zero eventually if they keep it up, right? Which is why I changed. I didn't use that word in the end. All right, anyway. So sweeping cuts to the budget because the price of oil has collapsed. What do these budgetary cuts look like? Things like aviation development, the budget for building new planes inside Russia, cut by 22%. Industrial robotics and modernization budget, cut by 30%. Bye, Patrick. Have a good night. Cut by 30%. These are the kinds of cuts that the Russians are having to make because they no longer have the income coming in. The EU is looking to vote away Hungary's voting rights. Hungary has fucked up enough, and the rest of the EU is tired of it. And so they are looking to see if they can shut down Hungary's voting rights, which would be a great idea for everybody. Damn straight. The U.S. has asked the G7 not to make statements about Russian frozen assets being used for the rebuilding of Ukraine. The Canadian president of the G7 has responded with a statement that Russian frozen assets will be used for war reparations to Ukraine. And they are sticking to their guns on that, which is good news. The Kremlin keeps finding every excuse it can not to have peace talks. So Lavrov today said that it would be, what was the word he used? Oh, shoot. I mean, it's not really the word he used anyway, because it's an English translation of the Russian word. But basically he said it would be uncomfortable for two Orthodox nations that see the Catholics as heretics to have negotiations on Catholic soil. So the Vatican is not an acceptable place for the Russians to have their peace talks, which is, I don't know, typical. Something you could have guessed at, right? Now, I got distracted by the airport closures because I really wanted to start with this. Now, I can't confirm this, the Pope, the prayers. I can't confirm this. All the sources of what I'm about to tell you are Russian. So this whole report must be taken with a grain of salt. But the Russians are freaking out. Maybe they're freaking out is a psychological operation against us, right? Good night, Bernard. The U.S. has condemned Russia's... Good night, Bernard. The U.S. has condemned Russia's continued brutal war against Ukraine at G8. Altered Carbon, you are behind the times. It hasn't been the G8 in 10 years. It's the G7 because we threw Russia out, right? And the U.S.'s language condemning Russia has gotten very soft lately. Marco Rubio won't call Putin a war criminal. We won't call the war an illegal war. The list goes on. So I'm not sure what you're getting at there. Do you think America would leave NATO because of their close relationship with Russia? Yes. Donald Trump is doing everything he can to get the U.S. out of NATO. And he has been since 1988. Jax is making the point that the Vatican is inside an ICC state, right? That's why they call it the Rome Statute, Jax. It's a good point. But it doesn't matter. Putin wouldn't attend himself anyway. That's never going to happen. Agent Krasnov, exactly. Okay, now here's the story that I can't confirm, but is very, very interesting. 80 kilometers, about 54, 55 miles inside Russia, in a town called Vygansky. The police have set up roadblocks, and I guess now the military's moving in too. And they claim that there are Ukrainian special operations forces holed up in this town, and that there's been gunfights around the area. Now, this may be, right? We just don't know. We also don't really know who it might be. Could it be Ukrainian military? It could be. Could it be Russian Freedom Legion? Could be. Could it be Russian Volunteer Corps? Could be. Could it be Siberian Battalion? Could be. Could it be a bunch of Russian gangsters that the Russians are just saying are Ukrainians? Could be. We just don't know. Good night, Michael. We just really are not sure. What is clear is that the governor is saying that there are roadblocks up in the area. If you can get out of the area, you should evacuate, and nobody should be going into that area. Now, if it is a Ukrainian Special Forces operations group, or a bunch of Ukrainian partisans, or a bunch of Ukrainian military guys, or intelligence guys, what might they be doing 80 kilometers inside of Russia? Well, they might be there to assassinate some Russian politicians. That's a possibility. They might be there as part of a sabotage operation, taking out, communications equipment or military targets, bridges, tunnels, railroads, etc. They might be there on an intelligence gathering operation and fucked up somehow and got caught, got made, right? The location where they are, it's very interesting. It's the Bryansk forest. And the Bryansk forest is a heavily thicketed, forested area that runs for hundreds of square hectares all the way down across the Ukrainian border. So once you got through that no man's land and the front lines, you'd have great cover to move the whole 80 kilometers right up there. And so it does look like something's happening inside of Bryansk. If it's Ukrainians, that would mean that Ukrainians are in 3 oblasts of the Russian Federation. Bryansk, Kursk, and Belgorod now. So as far as who is advancing in this war, I think it's clearly the Ukrainians. Now, you did hear a boom because, of course, the Russian methodology is not to fight a war, but to try to terrorize the civilian population into submission, right? That's what that is. Okay, so very interesting, I think, about Bryansk and the push in there. My final top line news item is this. Did you see this? The Russians are now saying that the Soviet Union never fell. Or that it, not that it didn't fall, but that its dissolution was illegal. That the appropriate forces inside of Russia didn't okay the dissolution of the empire, and therefore it still exists. Therefore, the war in Ukraine is not a war. It is an internal matter that the world has no business questioning or getting involved in. It is just such an arrogant, willfully ignorant, ahistorical position to take that you have to stand in awe of the bullshit these guys come up with. It's delusional. It's insanity. If you don't like history, just rewrite it. Exactly. Russia is upset that their Kremlin puppet didn't win in Romania. Yes, they are. Is Moldova concerned Transnistria's Russian troops are there? There's only about 1,500 Russian troops inside of Moldova, inside of Transnistria. Transnistria is a dog that may have been brought to heel, Brian, because the Ukrainians shut off the gas to Transnistria, starved them of their energy. And that meant that they had to turn to the legal Moldovan government for support, which meant that all the Russian checkpoints into Transnistria, as I understand it, have been shut down now. And so normal movement. Oh, Satra, do you know? Are you in Transnistria now? How do they resupply Transnistria up the Danube? Or not the Danube, it's a tributary of the Danube, I believe. You are in California, okay. What's happening with Russia buildup close to Kyiv? We don't know, Mighty Mac, right? Like, in all... Right. So it's crazy, right? Because the Russians can't get the Ukrainians out of Russia. The Ukrainians are in Belgorod. The Ukrainians are in Kursk. Now it looks like the Ukrainians are in Bryansk too. They can't get them out of Russia, but they're talking about moving into Sumy and Kharkiv, opening new fronts. They're stretched so thin as it is. How can they possibly be holding these reserves when these reserves should be deployed to eject the Ukrainians from Russia? You know, and that's a great question, Bobby. How do you do a summer offensive without heavy armor? How do you do a summer offensive with heavy armor when the weapon of choice of the enemy is a drone? Putin is claiming he's building up a buffer zone. I think what you're referring to there, Nightshade, is the meeting with the Russian governors, where the acting governor of Kursk region asked Putin, how much of Sumy Oblast should we take to establish a buffer zone? And Putin was like, oh, at least half of it or whatever, blah, 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 blah. I mean, they can't take Donetsk. And you're going to take Sumy? Evening, David. Okay, guys, it's about 15 minutes to the top of the hour. Again, thanks to Dark Irish, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. Thanks to Jay and Travis, the moderators. Thanks very much to Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces. And, of course, to Lars, who has the Discord server. It's Friday, so we'll go to open Q&A. Anybody can ask anything, and I'll see if I can answer it. What next? I'm probably just going to download the live, and then I'll throw it up on YouTube and on the Peter's Peeps channels. And then I'm going to get to bed. I got a long day tomorrow. I got to be up and out by 10:30. Bobby, the Ukrainian drones did do serious damage over the last 3 days. Yes. Yes. Mostly around... Oh, that's a sound you don't hear often. Mostly around military industrial sites. So semiconductor plants and battery plants for military hardware, that kind of thing. Thanks, Mr. Marmite. Ryazan oil refinery was hit. The loading platform for the rail station there and a workshop. Now, we don't know what kind of workshop was hit, but I'm guessing that it was the hydro treatment facility. That's a guess on my part, pure speculation. It's a little anti-aircraft fire. Do you think the White House is going to have any more presidents and leaders of countries visiting? Only the ones that bring jets, David. Only the ones that bring jets. Has Russia pulled in its air defenses to protect from Ukraine long-range drones? We saw the Russians move 280 pieces of air defense and radar into Moscow for the May 9th parade. But, here, take a listen to this. Maybe you can get a listen to this. Hold on. And those are undoubtedly going to be redeployed, altered carbon, but I don't know to where. Hear it? It's not often that you can hear a drone like that. We have a strong, layered air defense here in Kyiv. And for a drone to get so close to the center of town that you can hear it, it means that we're under a heavy, heavy attack. Air defense has been active for a couple hours now. And those pops and booms you hear in the background are air defense or drones actually either air bursting because of air defense or coming in to hit a target. That accelerating Doppler sound, you know, when the noise gets higher frequency, that's because as they cruise steady, then when they go into the dive, they accelerate, and you hear that acceleration. So that's what's going on here. Yeah, Dawn, I'm in Kyiv. You didn't know that? Morale is there's as many different states of being as there are Ukrainians, right? Like real people. Thursday we had one of the things I do in terms of morale and trying to keep morale up around here is we do comedy shows. And on Thursday we did a comedy show. It was a nice little crowd, about 25 people, in our favorite bar, Gonzo Bar, Lukianivska. And everybody had a great time. Everybody was laughing like for 2 hours straight. And everybody left a little bit lighter, I felt. Everybody has different concerns and levels of stress and stuff. I'm just amazed at how good my blood pressure is in this city. I mean, you would think that coming here, my blood pressure would go up, right? I am taking like 1/10 the medication to manage my blood pressure than I did when I came to this country. It's astonishing. Okay, so Bobby, I don't even remember what your question was. Did I answer it? Jax, they fighting their own demons concerning the war as well as fighting the Ruskies off. Yeah, Jax, that's a good way to put it. Oh, T-Bar guy, you're so right. Like there are no preservatives in the food here. I mean, it's astonishing how fast things will go bad. And things go bad here that never go bad in the United States. I mean, I know I've opened jars of mayonnaise that had been in the refrigerator for a year at home. And you're ready to go. You just slather that shit on, right? It's Hellman's. No problem. Over here, you let a jar of mayonnaise sit in the refrigerator for a month, forget it. You open it, it's all moldy. You have to throw it out. Same with salad dressings. Whoever thought salad dressings could go bad? But they do when they're not pumped full of preservatives. Potatoes and onions. I have lived on potatoes and onions too, Flip. You're not wrong. Yeah, I have a blood pressure machine, Bobby. You might have seen, I might have an extra one. You might have seen it in my things in California. I don't know. I mean, some things do taste better, Jax. I mean, I don't know. I miss chicken parmesan. I do. I really miss a good chicken parmesan. I miss good pizza. I miss fried chicken. Those things are not available here. And, people will tell you, oh, yes, they are, this and that. No, it's all bullshit. It's crap. It's garbage. It's terrible here. Those things. But there's a lot of other good things that are here. So it's, Pip's blood pressure is good too. Yeah, William, the bread here is phenomenal, though I don't eat very much of it. I'll tell you why. When I first got here, I ate too much of it. I mean, it's so good. The fits. Okay, look it. Dark Irish is the sponsor of tonight's live, so I'm not going to say a word to his nonsense there. Start raising chickens. I'm not in the United States. I can afford eggs here. Trump is full of preservatives. You're not kidding. Yeah, well, it definitely makes a difference. I'm not saying anything. I'm not getting banned tonight because of you. I'm in Kyiv, Ukraine. Have you heard of it? Not for the eggs, for the chickens? What? You want me to raise meat birds in the middle of the city, G2? If there's a joke in there, I'm not getting it, pal. Oh, of course I fry my own chicken. Of course that's what I have to do to get fried chicken. I fry it myself. Of course that's what I do. I'm just saying, there's nowhere to go to get fried chicken. You have to fucking make it. Do you know what a mess it is making fried chicken, for Christ's sake? It's messy. And if I want chicken parmesan, Not only do I have to make my own fried chicken, then I have to make my own tomato sauce because there's not a good tomato sauce in this whole country. KFC is terrible here, Irish. It's so bad. You would not even believe it. You would be like, how could this, what the fuck, how is this? KFC. There's no breasts, first of all. You can't get a fried chicken breast in KFC. Is that the craziest thing you ever heard of? But there's more differences too. The pizza is universally awful here. I found a couple pizza places that are okay. Trattoria number 5, Trattoria dell'Oro, Cafe Milano, Il Molino, whatever. But beyond that, what they serve, what they call pizza, I mean, some of it is delicious. I'm not saying it's not delicious. It's just not pizza. If it's chicken, blue cheese, and pear, it's not pizza. I'm sorry. I don't know what it is, but it's not pizza. Yeah, the Colonel would be disappointed as shit. I'm not buying kitchen gadgets for a house that I'll never take them from. Come on. KFC is terrible anywhere. I don't know what a slim chicken is. No, I don't know what that is. Oh, the 11 herbs and spices have been published for a long time. Curse you, internet. Good night, Mighty Mac. Oh, I don't know, Jake. There's some places in New York City, man. There used to be a place. I think it's gone now. I think they tore it down to build a skyscraper on the corner of 42nd Street and Avenue of the Americas. The northwest corner of 42nd Street and Avenue of the Americas. There was a pizza place there, man. They're thick cut Sicilian. I used to go there for lunch regularly because I worked at the Grace Building. And I'd get 2 slices of that, and I'd ask them to leave it in to burn the cheese a little. Oh, so good. So, guys, it is... good night, Nightshade. Well, if you listen closely, you can get some sense of it, oh yes. Because air defense is active. Drones are flying. And exploding. Pete, what does Ukraine look like when war finishes? That's a great question, Steve-O. I mean, in my opinion, assuming that Ukraine is not abandoned by the West, and assuming that Ukraine can hold out until Russia collapses under its own corruption, rotted, hollowed out from the inside, then I think Ukraine's future is particularly bright, especially if they assist the rest of Europe by acting as a lens of immigration. Wow, that might have been a fighter jet flying over. Did you hear that? I have yet to see an F-16 in the sky here. Listen, you can hear that drone. That's a fighter jet. Or a missile, maybe. Hard to tell. Hard to tell. I don't like that drone. That drone's getting close. Now you can hear, right, all the car alarms going off. So that was close. That was probably in the neighborhood. I'll have to go check now. Oh, I can hear another one coming in. I don't think we've ever been live like this, when it was like this, have we? This seems new to me. Well, I can't show you anything. If I were to turn the camera outward, then anybody watching the stream, and we know that there are people from St. Petersburg on my stream every night. We know you're here, right? You know, we know, everybody knows. It's not impossible that you could then deduce the location of air defenses, and we can't permit that. So I can't show you anything. Yeah, no, I don't think I've ever been live right in the middle of a full-fledged attack on the city like this, where air defense is near constant. Ooh. That doesn't sound good. Okay. Targeting civilians is a war crime, yes. Listen, do you hear that? That's a jet engine. Now, that's either a fighter jet of the Ukrainians that's involved in defense, or that's a missile. Now, if that was a missile, if we could hear it like that going over, then it's got to be in a near-term final trajectory, right? So if that was a missile, there should be a very loud bang coming up here. It was warm today. It was a beautiful day. It was like 77, almost 80. That's what that was. That's a big bang. Okay. I'm as safe as anybody else in this country. Okay. I'm as safe as anybody else in this country. Well, Steph. Kyiv. It's been a long time since I've heard this much action. This is really something. So yeah, no, I think you're right, guys. It's time to go to the basement. It's time to think about. It's time to think about doing that. So, ladies and gentlemen, big thanks to Dark Irish, who is the sponsor of tonight's live. Big thanks to everybody who hangs out here. Big thanks to everybody who's sponsored a live. I've got live sponsors through Tuesday of next week, looking for more for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The PayPal's in the description. If you haven't joined the Patreon, please consider joining the Patreon. Please help to keep me here. I'm really appreciative. This was a tough week for me, and some old friends and some of the board of directors guys have really come through, especially Fitz and Arn and Cynthia and Tony. So big thanks to you guys. And I am gonna try to get someplace with no windows and no wall and solid walls on both sides. All right, kids, make it a great day.